Okay,
Hmm.
and we're back.
We're here.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Learning Space. I am one of your hosts, Nicole Gugliucci, a postdoc with CosmoQuest Project, and I have my co-host who is right through this wall.
Oh, stop.
I'm sorry.
Quiet down over there. Hello. It's been a long time, it seems like, for me,
It
actually.
has been a long time, Georgia. Yeah. First of all, I gotta get this out.
Yeah.
Just found out on Twitter about the death of John Dobson, creator of the Dobsonian telescope. If you're not familiar with such a telescope, it is a really super simple, cheap mount that allows you to use a really, really big telescope. John Dobson, I just saw on Twitter that he died today, and literally the Wikipedia page was just updated. He lived to be 98,
Hmm.
and he started off this idea. I don't know if he's the first. I think he probably is the first guy to start up this idea of sidewalk astronomy, of bringing an amateur telescope out on the sidewalk to talk to people, catch them as they're going by, and get them to look through the telescope and see something
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. When I think of bringing astronomy to the people, that's who I think of. I think of John Dobson, and I remember I'd heard of him because of his telescope design for a long time, but back in the 80s, I think, PBS did a series called The Astronomers, and he was in one of the episodes, and I just remember was showing him and his telescope. He was on the sidewalk, and they were looking at the moon, and a woman came up and, asked, "What are you looking at?" And she said, or he said, "This is the moon." And she said, "Oh, is this part of a study that you're doing?" And he looked at her and he said, "No, this is part of a study that you're doing. If you come up and you take a look at the moon, it's your moon." And I just thought that was so cool. And
Oh
I
my
always
gosh.
remember that because it's our sky up there. It's our moon. And we should all be out there looking and studying it. So yeah, he is amazing. Really inspirational.
It's funny you say our moon. I have a pile of Astro swag on my desk right now, and there's totally a sticker that says it's our moon
Oh, I know.
from NLSI.
Yeah, International Observe the Moon Night.
Yeah,
It's our
yeah.
moon. So I thought
Um,
that was a great scene, yeah.
yeah,
We'll hear a lot about him now.
what's that?
I just say I will hear a lot about him now that he's passed on.
Yeah,
People
yeah,
in
so
yeah.
thank you, John Dobson, for the sidewalk astronomy, for the awesome telescope mount. Um, we had a really cool Dob. Dob is shorthand, right, or light bucket. When I was an undergrad at Lycoming College in Pennsylvania,
Hmm.
that we took out to the side. I didn't know that he did this sidewalk astronomy thing at the time. I was an undergrad. I didn't know anything. Not that all undergrads are, but I was pretty stupid. So we actually brought this Dobsonian to the sidewalk outside the academic center at Lycoming, and it was when Mars had its closest approach, and its real closest approach, not the nonsense email that goes out every August.
Or colossal closest approach, right?
Oh, big as the moon, blah blah blah. No, but it was actually pretty cool to see through this. I forget how many inch mirror that that Dr. Fisher brought out. And we had several hundred people come by, and this was like one of my first outreach experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the sidewalk and the Dob together is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So,
And
so
it's
yeah,
the kind of telescope you could make if you were going to make a telescope. Because I always thought, oh, one of these days, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grind the mirror. I'm going to get the huge tube and make a Dobbs. And, I never have. But,
yeah. We
um,
should do that together because I want to do
so
the mirror
I,
grinding thing. Because
yeah,
that,
to do that. Yeah,
yeah, I've been
great
told that,
project.
that's
I
a
always wanted to do that.
very, it's a very, I don't want to use the word spiritual. It's a very
Kind of
reflective
zen, you kind of get into it,
experience.
and it's
Yeah,
almost meditative. Yeah, that's what I've
that's it.
heard.
That's it. All right, we're gonna
Before
make
the really
telescopes.
frustrating part where are like a degree
Break it.
off or something. Yeah, we could do
All right.
it.
We should totally do it. That'll be like a whole series of episodes. One episode, just a clip
I
show
know,
of
it's
us
just you
making.
could update your progress.
Oh my
This
gosh.
week. What's the
Yeah.
doc doing now?
What's the dub? Yeah. Okay, so so we wanted to talk about that. Thank you. Paul Stewart was on Twitter was the first one who I saw, one of our virtual star party peeps, who was the first tweet that I happened to see. But go check out the hashtag John Dobson on Twitter right now. People are talking about their experiences with the telescope and sidewalk astronomy and about the man himself. So yeah, sad news to start the show with. Yeah, like you said, we haven't been around for a while. I want to remind you guys of the ways you can contact us. If you can share the link, that's awesome. Thank you. I turned the Q&A app on this time correctly, so you can use the Q&A app. I think there's comments on the event page, and there's comments on the YouTube.
Okay.
The YouTubes, the Facebooks, and the face pages. So I will try and keep an eye on those as well, but probably the Q&A app's the one that I see the most because it's actually on the video screen. One of these days I'll figure out how to get these all together.
Then you can show me how it all works.
Yeah, and then they'll change it. And
I'm waiting for Nicole to figure it out, and then you come over and tell me what to do.
I will be redoing my Hangout tutorial soon, so I'll put that out.
Yeah, okay. I'll be waiting.
So comment, leave a question, say hello, do all the usual. We did have a brief show last week. If you missed it, it wasn't at the regular time. It was kind of a guerrilla action. I was part of the second Astronomy Ambassadors Workshop that the American Astronomical Society has put on with the Astronomical Society of the Pacific, so AAS and ASP, those of you who know your acronyms. It was the second year they did this workshop, training young astronomers, students, undergrads, grad students. I think it was mostly grad students, postdocs, and young professional astronomers to do outreach. And it was a really cool program, and I got together with some of my new cohort and some people from last year, the first cohort, and we talked about the program and the cool stuff that people have been doing over the last year who did it last year. So check that out. That was last week's. It was only about a half hour, and it was in a somewhat echoey ballroom. But you will be seeing more of those people because I told them I'm going to tap them from Learning Space from here on in because they are all great outreach people. Yeah, and then I told you guys I was going to do some videos to keep it going through Christmas and New Year's, and then I got really sick, so that didn't happen. Sorry. So I hope you're
better now.
I'm better now.
Recovered.
Yeah. Recovered. Yeah, I know a lot of people in the U.S. have had the flu.
I know. So. I've avoided it, so fingers crossed, yes.
Gay flu shots. Gay flu shots. All right, so what we wanted to talk about, speaking of sidewalk astronomy, something you can do on the sidewalk really easily is point out constellations. We want to talk some about our favorite constellations and about our favorite constellation stories, as well as the what prompted this is we got an inflatable planetarium from Starlab in the STEM Center here where we work. So we wanted to tell you a little bit about that, and I don't know if you want to.
That is awesome.
What's that?
Because that is awesome.
Yeah, let's start. Let me show you a picture. If you haven't seen one of these before, it is this big inflatable dome. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Dome. That you can. It's like a tent time.
I was gonna say, like going camping, only inside and more fun in a way.
This is a fantastic picture of our outreach coordinator, Sean Herberts.
That looks like the blob there.
I'm not sorry for showing this, but yeah, this is. We took it on a trial run for the Teen Science Gateway Teen Science Cafe back in October, and we had a bunch of high school students who were coming for a talk the talk was about the moon and CosmoQuest and citizen science, which had nothing to do with constellations, but we wanted to set it up and show them the constellations anyway. So we did that. I don't have any interesting pictures of inside because I don't have a nice camera to do inside pictures. But
can you show how, where you would go into this big thing?
Oh, that would be, you gotta, so we have the older version. We have the older version. I don't know if you can see this tube here. You crawl into the tube.
It actually opens up.
And then it opens up and you can stand inside. There's no floor necessarily because there's a big fan that keeps it inflated. And you get everyone to kind of sit around, and then you have a little movable stand inside. I love this picture of Sean. Little movable stand inside behind where Sean is holding his hands up, which has a projector, and the projector is, in this case, we got the analog projector, I'll call it. It is has a series of cylinders. It has a series of cylinders, essentially, with little holes. It's opaque with little holes in it that indicate where the stars are, and it's got a really bright LED that goes in the middle and it projects onto the inside of this dome. So we have the analog version. We ordered some cylinders. We ordered, I think, Northern Sky. So, I don't know. Somebody put me in charge of ordering cylinders because why would they do that? I had a blast. So we got like Northern Sky, Southern Sky. Then we got Greek constellations, Native American constellations. We got a special Lewis and Clark cylinder, which has a lot of stuff about astronavigation, and I forgot what the sixth one was already because we haven't opened it since the move. So yeah, you can get all these little cylinders. Now so this is kind of the older analog version. It's like pinpoints in the film to get you your stars. But they also make these really swanky digital projectors. And the dome that goes with that is you can actually go in walking. And with the digital projector, you can really go to town showing movies that have been rendered for a planetarium screen. For example, we have Cosmic Castaways with CosmoQuest and Science on the Half Sphere, which is an open source 20-minute long planetarium movie. So if you have one of these digital projectors, you could just go download the movie. It's huge. It's a huge file. You go download the movie and actually show that in your planetarium.
Yeah. Ruins your night vision, though, I bet.
Oh, it does ruin your night vision. Yeah, absolutely. If you're going to show a fun movie. But it's
very cool.
It's a very different experience.
So the one the STEM Center has is huge.
Yeah.
It's the large, because there was like a regular size, right?
Yeah.
And then
we just went all out.
Yeah, and how many adults can you fit in? Do you remember?
Oh, I remember I saw the number on the website and I laughed at it because I would never try and fit that many people in there. But that's just me because I am me.
I mean, I want to say more than 50.
It was more than 50. And I think you could get away with it with adults, especially if they don't mind being a little cozy. With younger audiences, it's a bit more difficult to keep them controlled and quiet. Especially me, because I have a tendency to ask questions and expect them to shout out answers, and then you can't get them to stop talking. So I shoot myself in the foot there. But trying to find the dome size.
Yeah, so for that reason alone, I mean, it's nice to keep the numbers small.
It's nice. Yeah, I'm comfortable with about 30. Even in the large dome. Here we go. Classic giant dome. The diameter's 22 feet. The height's 13.5 feet or 4.1 meters. Sorry, want to use my metric for feet. Seating up to 56 people. So you can fit up to 56 people in there. Controlling 56 people in the dark is a very different story. So, yeah. Oh, we have an excellent comment from Tom Nath. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it Nath or Nath. Yell at me at some point to pronounce your name properly. You need to try out Microsoft's Worldwide Telescope for use in the planetarium. I am a big fan of Worldwide Telescope, partly because Microsoft let us hosted Dot Astronomy this past year, and we all got to play with it. Worldwide Telescope can do movies and planetarium software, and I think it's all free. You can make all kinds of amazing stuff, and I think you can render it for 3D for a planetarium as well. So go check out Worldwide Telescope. You do need to have Windows to run the. You can run it on any machine. You can run the shows on any machine. But if you want to create things, you have to install Windows. And so a whole bunch of astronomers installed Windows on their Macs just to use Worldwide Telescope. That's how cool this thing is. So yeah, thank you, Tom. That is definitely something to check out.
But you could take. I've never tried this, but I think you could take a little projector and laptop into the dome, and you could still probably show quite a few interesting things.
I think you could still show.
To do that, yeah.
It's large enough that I think you could use a regular projector without too much warping.
Yeah, I haven't tried it. But even with the cylinder, like you say, it's the analog version, but from what I remember, and I haven't seen this one, but when I used it years and years ago, it still was really impressive. I mean, it still showed, wonderful star fields that really, I mean, it gets oohs and ahs from the kids, when you dim the lights and they start to see stars. I mean, it's just like when you're outside and you're waiting for your eyes to get used to the darkness, and you see that second star, and it's like, ooh, and then suddenly, wow, I see tons of stars. So it's still so impressive.
I actually, when we did it for the Teen Science Cafe, And it's the first time I had used one in a while, and I stepped in and turned it on to set up, and I looked up, I was like, oh my God, I don't know what anything is. Like, I figured this would be easy because I do the public nights here every 2 weeks. I'm like, I know what's in the sky. Didn't know, just totally not used to not light polluted.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was pretty intense, and
It is. It's actually easier in a way in the semi-polluted or very polluted real sky to find some things.
Yeah.
Because there's not as much to get in the way. There's fewer stars that you have to worry about looking at, and it's pretty intense in the dome with all of them there, and no atmosphere in the way. Really.
Oh yeah. It just gets noisy. That's my only thing with it, is because it's a sphere.
Yes, there's
you
some
get reflections.
Echo properties, and that you hear. And students across the dome think they're whispering and you can't hear them, but quite often you can.
Oh yeah.
And they're very surprised about that.
So Starlab's not the only company that makes them like these. Digitarium's another one. I think they were just at the American Astronomical Society conference with their big dome, showing it off to the astronomers. There are lots of other companies. And like I said, it's really great because building a permanent planetarium is a super expensive project if you want to do outreach, especially if because this you can bring to schools. It's just so cool to do that. So Tom says, all vowels long. Now I don't know if that's Nath or Nathy.
I think that would be Nathy.
Nathy? Okay. He's going to correct
if that's right or not.
my name is,
Well, yeah.
A friend of mine, and he continues, a friend of mine just updated a community college's 60s era dome. I went to a college with a 60s era planetarium. They just updated their projector to worldwide telescope. Cost is about $40K for projectors, computer, and lenses, and the software itself is free. So yeah, you can upgrade. That's a pretty cheap price to upgrade a permanent planetarium, I think. That's a pretty good price. So, but I like again, if you can't afford a permanent one, this one you can take to schools, you can travel with, you can take to campuses. We used it when I was with Dark Skies Bright Kids especially to make up for, like, if we tried to schedule a family observing night and we had a cloudy night, we'd kind of...
So your university had one, UVA had it?
A UVA eventually got one. We used to borrow one from the Children's Museum in Charlottesville. We used to partner with them. And then we got money for our own from, I think, the Chandra outreach grant, and we got the digital. We went all out. We got the digital one, and then not me, but several of my colleagues hacked the software because they didn't like the traditional shows that it came with, and they wanted to make their own shows. So they hacked it with permission from the software people. They were like, "Oh yeah, that's cool. Here's our files. Do stuff."
That's very cool.
They hacked it and made some of their own
guys are
shows.
typical teachers, you got all the stuff you can buy, but then teachers always want to do their own thing.
We want to do more stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, well, because these things aren't cheap either, but often you can find somebody that will you can borrow them from, you can rent them from. When I was teaching years and years ago, our little district could never afford to get one, but we had a local Office of Education that had one, and with some training, the teachers could go get trained, and then you put a little deposit down, but you take good care of it, and you can have it for a week at your school, take all your students through it, and then return, and it was really amazing. Nice. Kids loved it.
Yeah, we that's something we're in the. Well, I say we. Really, Colin, who was a previous guest on the show, is working out for our resource center here. So if you're in Southern Illinois, the STEM Resource Center at SIUE will have it available. I don't know what we're doing about training yet in terms of training people to use it. We will have it available for a fee because it will come with a person to run it, and it'll be to pay that person to run it. But they haven't set that yet. So hopefully it'll be nice and affordable for school groups and educators and stuff. So that's in the works here at least. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Oh, I know.
So that is the inflatable, the world of inflatable planetaria. So we'll dip into that, and that got us thinking about constellation stories. Sorry, one more thing, a couple more things. I've just seen the comments here. Guido Bibra says from earlier, very sad about John Dobson. And Daniel Barringer is very excited about Starlab. I nearly lost my voice many times with kids in Starlab. It's amazing how loud tiny lungs can be. That. That is exactly it. Tiny lungs and reflection.
Amplification.
Yeah. Yes. It's definitely not affordable for everybody, Bieber points out, but still fascinating. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the kind of thing if you're an organization and can write a grant, I guess small to mid-sized grant, depending on the size of your organization, that this will get you one of these, and it's really fun. So yes, we were talking, so that got me thinking about constellations, because on the website, on the Starlab website, they have, especially since the particular stick figures they use on the constellation cylinders, I don't always recognize. And so they have those pictures.
Right?
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Wait a minute. Okay.
Wait,
nope.
wait.
Oh, where's the author? Okay. I love this one.
Yeah. This is, yeah. Ooh, there we go.
H.A. Ray.
H.A. Ray, The Stars.
Curious George Guy. Okay.
Harkening back to our.
I learned the constellations with this book.
Yeah.
Long before I ever knew what a Starlab was, and I was amazed and delighted to find out that this is at least on one of the cylinders we're talking about, shows the constellations drawn out the way he did. So, yes, it's a little different than some people learn them.
You're right. It is the Ray. You're right. It is the Ray constellation cylinder.
It's but there's another cylinder I think that shows them in a more traditional way. Now I don't know if
artistic drawings.
Artistic, okay.
Yes, there's
where you see Greek figures and they're very pretty.
Yeah.
These are more supposed to look like what the constellation is supposed to be.
Yeah, it's like if you actually connect the stars.
Right.
But it's not.
Most of the time, it is. It's a really good way. And this book is still around, The Stars. So it's still an awesome book.
Is it on Amazon?
It's on Amazon.
Have a wave of people going to Amazon.
It's like, and it's like under $20. I don't.
Nice.
Last time I looked, it was like $12 or $13. So.
Yeah.
It's well worth it. And whether you're trying to learn constellations to go into the Starlab or learn them just for the real sky, it's a great way to learn them.
Do you have a favorite?
Very user-friendly.
Do you have a favorite that you want to start with? Or maybe what was your favorite as a kid?
I always liked the Pleiades. I don't know why. I guess because it's pretty. One of these, and it's one of those that somehow it just catches your eye when you're out there looking, and you may not even know what it is, but it's this little glimmery group of stars. And then, of course, it looks fantastic in binoculars or telescope, but even naked eye, it's just a really amazing group of stars. And I'm sad to say I don't really know a good version of the story. I know there is a story that goes with it, but of course it's also called The Seven Sisters. And I know there's lots of versions of the story out there, but it is one that we did share with the kids because they could find it in the real sky too. And what we tried to do was show them the constellations in the Starlab and then help them to find them in the real sky. And actually, most of them were very successful in finding, because you teach them the tricks of how to kind of star hop and go from constellation to constellation, and they did a pretty good job. And that was fifth graders that I had, 10-year-olds. So I love the Pleiades. I think just because of the way it looks. I think there are probably better and more exciting stories out there about constellations, but.
Well, the Pleiades is a good object to look at because the fuzziness is just at the edge of our vision for most of us, and so it's the fact that it's an object, but it's not a point, it's not a star, it's something else. So yeah, that's why it's really cool. It is of course a very loose open star cluster of young stars.
Yeah, and you asked me what my favorite constellation was, and it's not really a constellation.
That's
so
all right. That's fine.
You didn't answer that question very well. Sorry.
It's your favorite thing in the sky. It's fine. Mine's Cygnus A, which is a radio galaxy.
But
whatever.
Yeah. So we talk a lot about the constellations and how they came to be, and there's official constellations now, of course, but way back and even now, people go out and they make up their own shapes. And different cultures, of course, have different shapes and stories with the constellations. And The Pleiades is actually one that I've heard called a little shopping cart, which I always thought was really cute. Or a very little dipper. It does have a dipper shape, but shopping cart, I don't know why, I always liked. And the kids got right onto that. They said, yeah, I saw the shopping cart, because they like to hear the alternate,
it's something that we
constellations, because then they start to make up their own. And, it's not the official name, but it's still okay because it gives them a good way to connect to the sky, and it gives them a nice way to remember, the stars that are out there and get them to go out and look. So you can, you can draw a shape, and that's what the constellations are all about. Shapes and stories.
Yeah.
Finding your way around in the sky.
We have a comment from Michael Rector, who also pointed out that as a kid I thought the Pleiades was the Little Dipper. Good thing I never had to use it to guide myself north. That happens all the time, especially when you show it binoculars, because it's like, oh, it's the Little Dipper. It's like, no, it's kind of like the Itty Bitty Dipper.
I know, the Mini Dipper. It'd be the Mini Dipper.
Kind of different.
I know. Yeah. So yeah, it's actually part of Taurus, isn't it?
It is part of the Taurus constellation, and the way, the other way
Taurus is awesome too.
Yeah, we like Taurus. The constellations can be thought of as the groupings of stars with the pictures and the lines, but also the modern constellations have regions defined around them. So every piece of sky is broken up. I think it's 88 constellations.
Yeah.
Every piece of sky is broken up, and that's used in traditional star naming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have another comment from Guido saying that the first constellation I really recognized was Cassiopeia.
Yeah.
Before that, it was always the triangle over the big maple tree in summer, which I'm not sure is Cassiopeia or you start with the summer triangle.
It could be the summer triangle. I like the triangle over the maple tree. Yes.
I totally get it. Yeah, there was the thing by the streetlight when I was growing up.
That really bright thing up there. What is it?
So Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia is one of my favorites. So I'm not going to tell the story because if you are listening to this in the podcast version, that means you've already listened to 365 Days of Astronomy podcast, the audio-only version of this. And you need to go back to an earlier episode. It was the Heidi Winter Memorial Lecture by Dr. Ed Murphy at the University of Virginia. He tells the Cassiopeia, the story. It starts with Cassiopeia. And it's this story that ties in a whole bunch of constellations in the same part of the sky. It's Cassiopeia, it's her husband Cepheus, their daughter Andromeda, her future husband Perseus. Perseus rides in on Pegasus, the winged horse, and so this whole part of the sky, and I think Cetus, the sea monster's in there.
Yes, Cetus, the whale, or the sea monster.
Yes. It looks kind of whale-ish, but technically I think he was a sea monster. It was like a... this is why I'm not telling the story, because when it comes out of me, it goes blah. I'll give you the spoiler alert. Cassiopeia's vain. The gods punish her by chaining her daughter to a rock, because that's fair. I like to tell the snarky feminist version of this story.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But and Perseus sees her and saves her. Ed Murphy tells the story in incredibly just captivating detail, and points out it's probably one of the oldest stories, the oldest known stories in mankind. It came not from the Greeks, but from the Babylonians. And so this whole story of vanity and damsel in, like, this is like the first damsel in distress story. This is this is one of the first recorded stories of humankind, and it's written up there in the constellations, in the Greek constellations as we use them today. So yeah, if you get a chance, go check it out. 365 Days of Astronomy. It was just a few weeks back. It was the Heidi Winter Memorial Lecture. It's an hour-long talk with an introduction. That made me cry because it was about Heidi Winter, who's a fascinating, amazing woman. But then Ed goes into the constellation stories, and it's really, really fun. So check that out.
A lot of these stories end up with some way or reason that the character got put up into the sky.
Oh, yeah. It's all morality stories. It's all
So she's a circumpolar constellation.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. If you're in the northern hemisphere, you will see her most of the time. She's that W shape in the sky. or M, depending on what season it is.
So,
I can show you mine.
yes, so for part of the year she is
There we
upside
go.
down.
There's the W. There's the Ray W.
Melody. Yes, there we go.
So yeah,
And that's a great
my
one.
favorite.
Easy to find most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have a lot of trees and she's really low to the ground.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're in the northern hemisphere,
But it could be that big W thing by the maple tree out there.
It's got triangles. It totally has triangles. And I like Cepheus. So Cepheus is nearby. Cepheus is Cassiopeia's husband. They are the king and queen of Ethiopia, I think.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, yeah, there it is, right there. And there is a variable star in Cepheus called Delta Cephei. And it is a very well-known variable star, and it is it's visible to the naked eye, and its period is short enough that you can watch it over several nights. And the other cool thing about it, okay, so you have this variable star that's changing its brightness over several nights. There are two other stars right near it that make this little tiny triangle off this edge of Cepheus. And when it's at its dimmest, it's dim as the one star. When it's at its brightest, it's as bright as the other star. So you have calibrators, and you could go out there every night and actually, like, you know, we used to do this lab back at Lycoming College, where we would chart out the brightness of Delta Cephei over the course of a semester, rating it from, like, 1 to 5 or something like that. Comparing it to those two stars, it's a really simple, no technology required way of exploring variable stars. So that's a really good laboratory exercise if you have an Astronomy 101 class and get them out there to look at, look at the sky every night.
Yeah.
I should point out, Michael Rector also says, explaining Cassiopeia depends, I forgot, there are other orientations. It could be a W or an M, it could be an E, or it could be a 3. So Cassiopeia spins around.
It can be many things.
Yeah, it can be many, many things.
Many things.
Do you have another story? Any other stories?
Well, the only other one, and again, I was never really good. I had to do a lot of practicing to try to tell these stories, so I was not really a storyteller. But my other favorite one was Scorpio and Orion. So there is a story that explains why you can never see those two constellations in the sky at the same time. So, at least again for us, Orion tends to be a winter constellation. Scorpio is a summer, more easily seen in the summer. And I forget all the details of the story, but of course it involves somebody doing something wrong to somebody else and being punished, and the Orion and Scorpion are chasing each other around the sky, and they never catch up with each other, but they never stop chasing each other either. They're just always, at opposite ends, and so you'll never see them together. They're opposite seasons in the sky, so that is one. And there's much, much more to that story. But
I remember that point of the story too.
Is, you're right, that they are always kept apart. Never catching up to each other in opposite ends of the sky. So it kind of helps. If you see Orion up, don't bother to look for the Scorpion, is what we always told the kids. And if you can find the Scorpion, because they're both very easy, relatively easy constellations to find. Great constellations. They look like what they're supposed to look like, right? It looks like a Scorpion.
The Scorpion looks like a person.
Stars, and the Scorpion, and then Orion, of course, is amazing, and looks like a person up there, so easy to find. So if you are looking at one, you're not going to see the other one. Don't even try.
And Orion is a person in many different cultures, constellation stories, because it looks like a person. I mean, that's one of the few.
Right.
That's like almost always a person.
Yeah. So it's a great hunter, great warrior, important person too. So,
well, it's got all the bright stars. It's got all the bright stars, of course.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking at the handouts you gave me. You gave me some of the Native American constellations. They have Navajo and Hopi stories that come along with the Starlab as well. I'm trying to find the one that was Orion.
So the website for the Starlab also has stories and things that you can download, which I hadn't looked at before, but yeah.
Oh, here we go. Long slash or slim one is also Orion. So this is the older version of the Starlab. manual. Yay!
Starlab
But
version 1.0.
they
Right.
do have it on the website, the modern version. But yeah, that again, they see a person with a sash because of the belt. It's just wow,
Yeah,
pareidolia right there.
there it is.
But he was leading. Yeah, he was again a very important person, leading his people away from enemies. Um, to a new land, and then they started fighting along the way. And he's like, no, guys, seriously, we ran away from our enemies because we didn't like fighting. Why are you fighting amongst yourselves? Like, stop. So he was a good leader for kicking some sense into his people. Tom says Orion is a bit of a pinhead.
Oh no!
It's true though, because of the shape. It's got the star, 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 star,
I know,
star, star,
and
star.
yes,
Like
right
yeah, it's like shoulders, belt, knees, and then like that's his head. It's very good. Orion's a bit of a pinhead. I'm gonna use that one. Orion's a bit of a pinhead. These
That's
are also
awesome.
and these are also visible. So I'm sure we have somebody listening from the southern hemisphere. We didn't forget you. Orion and Scorpio can be seen from a lot of southern hemisphere
Yeah,
locations.
definitely.
Freaked me out when I was in South Africa and Orion was upside down.
I
Just
know. I
didn't
was
know.
gonna say I have seen them both from Australia, and yeah.
Didn't know what to do with myself. I'm like,
I
of course it's
know.
not upside down to people who live there all the time, but to me
Right.
it was
No,
upside
I'm
down.
saying no good way.
Totally freaked me out, but that was cool. I have absolutely no concept of most of the southern constellations. I really did struggle when I was down there. And a lot of them are more modern now. The southern constellations that we use are what were they? I don't remember when they were actually. Was it 18th century that they were? Because there's telescopium and microscopium and all of these modern
That's a
instruments.
little like right equipment, instruments,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
So the southern hemisphere ones are very
more
different.
sciency in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, not bad. I could dig it. I could dig it.
Yeah.
I want to tell a story of Orion that I heard.
All right.
I don't know. I don't know the origin of this, and I'm going to tell it as I heard it. And I heard it from. I'm going to go ahead. Kelsey Johnson, who's a professor at University of Virginia, totally awesome astronomer. Founded the Dark Skies Bright Kids program, outreach program, and I have this. I also have this on audio, which I think was a very old 365 podcast, telling the story of Orion to a group of school children. And this is great. Again, I don't know the origin, the veracity of this story, where it came from, but the story goes there was an old man who lived alone. He'd always wanted children, but he lived alone. He's an old man at this point, so he wasn't ever going to have children. And he's a very poor old man living in his little hovel, and he doesn't have much. And this traveler comes along the road and is, he's like, I've been traveling, I'd like a place to rest and eat. And the man says, oh, sure, please come in, come in. And the man had this one skinny cow. This one skinny cow. It's like, it's one possession. And he's like, I really have nothing else to eat. So he slaughters like his one skinny cow to serve this traveler a decent meal. And the traveler was so impressed by this show of hospitality that he decided to reward the man. It says, you've always wanted a son, I'm going to give you a son. And so I forgot which god. It was probably Zeus. I don't know. It was some. I forgot which god it was. Some god.
You had that power. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So this traveler was a god in disguise. Like, yeah, this is a fairly common story. And he says, I'm going to give you what you've always wanted. I'm going to give you a son. The way he does it. So he goes outside to where the man has buried the remains of this skinny cow that he had.
Oh, okay.
And he pees on it. The god pees on the cow carcass, and it becomes a fully grown human son for this old man.
Well, that is a powerful god.
So Orion, Urine, there's some connection. Again, I have no idea the origin of the story.
That's the connection? Okay.
This is how I heard it told to a bunch of school. And it may just be because it was hilarious to tell to the school children. And really, I mean, let's face it, these are all, people swinging bears by their tails and throwing them in the sky. These are fictional stories. You can just kind of roll with it and make up stories along the way, whether or not this is actually an ancient story, if this is something that morphed out of later storytelling, is
That's okay.
unknown to
That's
me.
what stories do. They grow and change, which is awesome. And the kids that heard that story, like you, are never going to forget that.
That's right. And it
Never.
was funny because the volunteers, a lot of us hadn't heard that version either. We were just as shocked as the
Really?
kids.
Yeah.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
excellent.
So
That's
that's
great.
my Orion story. I don't
Yeah.
tell that one at the star parties. I need to research it a little bit more before I actually tell it in
Oh, but
public.
well, yeah. But that's fun, and so that's another activity that kids can do is they can
Oh
make up
yeah.
their own stories to go with either the constellations that they're learning, or
Mhm.
we used to give them just blank starfield maps,
Yep.
just Xerox them, and then they trace, make up your own shapes, whatever you want, and then make up your story. So is it going to be a hero story? Is it going to be just a weird animal story? What is it going to be? An adventure story? And anything futuristic. We had robots. I mean, it was really fun, and they make up their own stories
Yeah.
because that's what people have been doing throughout history, throughout the ages. When they
Yeah.
look up and they see the stars, and they look at and they see there's shapes and there's weird things up there, and now these weird things have to do other things, and let's make up a whole story, and it's entertaining and it's educational and
Yeah.
it's great.
I did a version of that, letting kids make up their own
Oh
constellation
yeah.
stories. Again, this was somebody at DSBK came up with this or found it online. We got black construction paper, and we would just hole punch the heck out of it
Oh
randomly. Now,
yeah.
this
Okay.
takes a
Yeah.
lot of prep, so you have to have a lot of really procrastinating grad students to get to pull this off for a large group. It's a small group, you can do it. So you get so they get these black construction paper with the holes punched in them, and they're told that's your star fields. Come up with a story.
Yeah. You do.
Oh God, we had Perry the platypus,
Oh.
which you guys may know from Phineas and Ferb. Uh, they would just pull, cartoon characters. There was one very detailed picture of a person that was Bob. We have no idea who Bob is, but Bob was very important to this kid. So they made a constellation. I still have one somewhere that's a sea monster. Yeah, they come up with really great stuff.
Oh, that's great.
If you hit the right age. If they're too old and not really in the mood, they're not going to want to do it. If they're too young, they're really like, what are you doing? I'm just going to scribble on this.
I
So,
know. So that's why I had, I think, the perfect age. When I was teaching, I was teaching fifth grade and
yeah,
10-year-olds, and they're like perfect. They just,
yeah,
they get into it. They're a little silly. They're having fun with it, but yet they're still, doing it. They're on task. They're learning and
yeah,
just having a great time.
yeah.
So, yeah, it
I,
was,
I got I got little kid cred when I knew who Perry the Platypus was.
yeah,
So I was very happy about that because Phineas and Ferb is fantastic.
I know.
So another good constellation. We gotta hit this one from Tom Nathy. Now I can pronounce your name. Sagittarius is a very cool constellation. It is the center. Actually, from our point of view on Earth. If you're looking at Sagittarius, you are looking towards the center of our galaxy. So if you are at a dark enough site, and especially if you're in the southern hemisphere, you can see the Milky Way as a band through the sky from the combined starlight of all the distant stars, and then the dust clouds that are in between that block some of that light, redden some of that light. Really gorgeous, gorgeous sight, and the center of it all, which of course is obscured in dust, is in Sagittarius. And in fact, so point out, Sagittarius is an archer, I think.
Yes.
Right? Okay, because to me, Sagittarius is the teapot. And to most people, it's teapot. Okay, it is not drawn as a teapot in H.A. Ray. This is why I'm going to find it.
I know, because it's Sagittarius the archer.
I know, it actually looks like an archer in his
So we have to
illustration.
make it look like an archer. But he
when
does
you
talk
look
about...
up in the sky, it looks like a teapot. Let's
Yeah.
just
So he
put it
talks
out
about the teapot as an asterism.
because it's only part of the constellation.
Yeah, it's a shape of stars that's not an official constellation. So, yeah, but I know he draws it. He draws it as an archer. So.
Well, I don't know.
I still an archer though.
It's just me. I don't see that many archers. I mean, other than the TV show. But
How many hydras do you see? How many?
yeah, but I mean, when there's something else to see, then I'm gonna tend like once you see the teapot, you can't unsee the teapot.
I know.
So
Oh, I
this
was
is the
gonna say
teapot.
that.
Yeah,
It hits you in the face. It's definitely a teapot.
yeah, yeah. So this teapot, this one even has a teaspoon, but the band of the Milky Way. I don't know if you can see on the screen here. This is like lighter gray going diagonally across the screen. So it kind of looks like the Milky Way is like steam coming up out of the
Yeah, it actually looks
teapot.
better in the real sky.
Yes, it does. Yeah, that's pretty terrible, but that's okay.
I know, but it's yes, that's
It's
exactly what it looks
illustrative, but yeah, it actually looks like steam coming out of the teapot. That's one way to talk about it.
like.
So yeah, that is a fun constellation. It's pretty far south where we are here in Illinois, and we have some from my observing site. We have oil refineries.
Oh,
Their lights on all the time, so it's kind of hard to see from here. So if you can get a clear view of Sagittarius and point it out and say, this supermassive black hole in the center of our galaxy lives right there, and it's right in that direction. We can't see much going on in the optical, but if you have a radio telescope or an X-ray telescope, you can see some pretty cool stuff happening at that constellation.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay, so we have a comment from Jeff Setzer. Last time I did a Messier marathon, which I will briefly mention what that is, I distinctly remember feeling like it was getting warmer when summer constellations rose. It was like my brain associated warm weather with teapot. Okay, so Messier marathon this typically happens in March. If you stay up all night in March, Northern Hemisphere again, you can hit every object in the Messier catalog. I think it's 100 and shoot.
I don't remember. 113?
There's like the official Messier catalog, and then there's a few add-ons, so you can see all the Messier objects. Sorry, distracted by other comments. In the sky in one night. So I know we've talked about doing a virtual Star Party Messier marathon because that'd be kind of fun. I've never done one. I've
never done one either. Done one either.
One of these days.
Should do.
After we make our Dobbs, we'll have a Messier marathon.
I know.
So anyway, so you're out all night. And the thing about being out all night is when we label something a summer constellation, that typically means that it's up in the sky in the early evening when most people tend to be out and about at night. So if you can see Sagittarius in the Northern Hemisphere, it's summer. It tends to be in the summertime. In the evening. So if you're up all night, if you're up at 3 a.m., you're gonna the constellations are moving, the Earth's rotating, the constellations move across the sky. You're gonna start seeing the summer constellations in winter, in March, for example, which is I guess spring. So you start to see constellations that you don't associate normally with the season that you're in because it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you really shouldn't be outside, unless you're an astronomer, of course. I have a similar experience with that. So for his, it was looks like it was the teapot Sagittarius in March. My first year of grad school, we were doing a lab. It was kind of a disaster, but it was supposed to be measuring the Airy disk of our telescope, of our 125-year-old telescope. Anyway. So we were observing and observing and observing and observing and observing. We finally stagger out of the little doghouse where the telescope is housed at University of Virginia, the little telescope, and it was, I want to say it was October, and September, October, so it was fall. It was still kind of warm. We stagger outside, and Orion is high in the sky. Orion is a winter constellation because it's winter right now. You can go out in the evening and see Orion up in the sky. Orion was up in the sky, and there was just this moment of, wow, it's the wrong time to be awake. If Orion's up in October,
what happened? Right.
You need to be in bed because we have class tomorrow. That's life. And it was especially funny because my friend Jake Simon, who's a theorist, was the first one to point that out. And he was like, oh my god. It's like, yes, Jake, sky does things. I love you, Jake. I'm sorry. I make fun of theorists. Jeff points out for the Messier objects, there are 110 Messier objects. From our latitude, we maybe get 108 theoretically. Never gotten more than 106 yourself. Still, 106. objects.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah.
Right. And a
For
lot of
one
them are
night.
faint. I mean, M1, Crab Nebula, pretty faint. So you really got to be know what you're doing
Yeah.
to get all
And
of
there's a
them.
particular order I know to get them in because you want to catch the ones that are about to set
Right.
before they do set. So I just,
Right.
yeah, heard but never. That would be a fun activity.
Yeah. Tom also pointed
And
out 110.
10. Okay, 110. Yeah.
A few more comments. Daniel Berenger says, other fun fact, back to Pleiades. Pleiades equals Subaru. This is
Yes,
the
I
Japanese
know.
name for, and yes, of course, I talk about this all the time because I drive a Subaru. Pamela Gay drives a Subaru. It's, you just have to drive a Subaru.
The constellation car.
It's the Constellation car. Sadly, the car manufacturer has changed their logo so it no longer looks like this. I still think it looks kind of like the Star Cluster, but maybe that's because I'm used to knowing that.
Hmm.
And then the now long defunct, points out the now long defunct movie studio Orion had the constellation as their logo as
That's true.
well. But yeah, so
And
yeah,
going back to your story of Cassiopeia and Andromeda and all that, that's there's been a few movies made of that whole story because it's a famous Greek story, and you can watch the really bad '80s one, Clash of the Titans, and then I think it was remade at least once, and there's probably more, but yeah, if you just want a cheesy evening of Greek mythology and weirdness and constellations live on the
I'm
screen.
totally gonna make my
Watch it.
boyfriend watch
It's
this with
good
me.
for a laugh. It's fun. It's fun. But yeah,
Awesome.
it's a famous story.
What is it? Clash of the Titans
Clash of the Titans
in the 80s. Okay.
in the
All right.
80s. I don't remember, but it's definitely, well, unless it's late 70s, which would be even more fun. But I think it's 80s. And I
All
think it
right.
was remade, gosh, at least once. So, I don't
Okay.
know. So Google that one.
There you go. Watch your constellation movies. See one other
But you had a
time.
nice, not story, but a way of thinking of the Big Dipper. I know, see, there's lots of
Oh yeah.
stories, associated with the Big Dipper and the Great Bear, Ursa Major, and all that. Because again, it's such a prominent constellation, at least for the Northerners. And it's of course a bear in many stories, but you just told me today it was three warriors maybe
Oh
stalking a bear.
yeah. So again, this is I
But I
don't
don't
know if it's in the
remember
handout you had.
what you said.
Because again, I heard this story from Ed Murphy at University of Virginia when I was learning the constellations from him because I had to teach them the next week. Like a good.
So maybe that's one of the more. There's many Native American
The Great Bear. So yeah,
stories
so,
and
so the
versions.
Great Bear story. Oh, okay. So here we go. It was an Iroquois legend.
Oh,
So they see a bear too. Now the Greek version of the constellation has a bear with a long tail, which is not biologically accurate. But the story I've heard is it was swung around on the tail,
yeah, kind of stretched.
thrown up there. So Ursa Major is the main constellation. Big Dipper is, of course, an asterism within that. And according to an Iroquois legend, the bear was pursued by three hunters. And so instead of having a long tail, those three stars of the handle of the Dipper are actually the three hunters that are pursuing the bear. And I remember one. Oh, it's kind of sad actually. Okay, so yeah, here we go. The chase begins when the first hunter strikes the bear with a bow and arrow. The wound wasn't serious, so the bear keeps running across the sky, bleeding from this arrow wound. I think that's the depressing part. Oh, here we go. This is the yeah. So it's so the bear's running around, and it gets close to the horizon. Yeah, in autumn it's really low in the northwestern sky, and so because it's that low in the autumn, low in the sky, the blood trickling from the wound is what turns the leaves. This is turns the leaves colors in autumn. So this is one legend, one
Yeah.
story of the hunters, the bleeding bear, and autumn. So I mean, I guess because the bear survives, it's not that sad, but it still kind of makes me sad that it's running around the sky bleeding.
Again, it's a circumpolar constellation, so depending on your latitude, it's it will come back, or
It'll come back.
maybe never set if you're way up north.
Right. I think it gets very low, but it doesn't quite set for us here.
No. But yeah, in the winter, it's pretty hard to see.
Yeah.
Again,
Now,
depending on what time you're out.
if you want to explore, okay, maybe you'll get this. Sorry, comments again. Jeff Setzer. Harry Hamlin is Perseus. The best character is the mechanical owl. This is about Clash of the Titans.
Oh, yes, there was a mechanical owl. I forgot about that. So you got to watch it for that.
Okay. Oh, and we have a link from
Ancient Greeks and robots together. So.
And robots, because, you know, robots. The ultimate Messier object log with an acronym TUMOL is a great list to work from. So davidpaulgreen.com/TUMOL. So Tom Nathy posted that in the Q&A. I will copy that onto the event page comments because reasons. Oh, and Guido has also seen Clash of the Titans. Ray Harryhausen special effects. Cheesy as heck, but oh so fun. But not an Orion production. So there you go.
Oh, well, yes.
That's your homework, people. Go watch that movie. If you great way to look at the sky. You can get a star. Can you show your star wheel? Do you have your star wheel there? You can get your hands on a planisphere or star wheel. That's kind of the old school way of looking at constellations.
I don't know. I'm sure. Okay. So
did I steal it? Oh, there it is.
Sky Challenger. Lots of great. This comes with 6. I don't know where to get this. I'm sure you can get this somewhere online. What do you think? I'm sure you can. This comes with like 6 different wheels. So there's different ways to look at the sky. Of course, find the constellations. There's different little activities. Gosh, I got this so long ago, but I'm sure it's probably still around. Wow, copyright 1978. Okay, that's pretty old.
If you can't get that one in particular, I mean, if you Google Planisphere.
It's so cool. I hope it's still around because it's really nifty. Probably massively updated and even better. It's called Sky Challenger, and there's many versions of these sky wheels around.
I need to find. Keep going. I just thought of something I need to show people. Yeah. So that one. Yeah, so if you don't have that one in particular, if you Google Planisphere, there are lots of ones you can just print and cut, and that's a really good activity to, it's a good take-home activity with kids, is you can cut up these star wheels and have kids make them. Yeah. I want to find the one I just got at AAS because it makes me so happy, and this is thanks to Rob Minchin at Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico. Oh gosh, I can't find it. He came up with a planisphere of the radio sky.
Oh, okay.
Which makes me so happy.
You have one with the exoplanets also?
Oh, I have. Yeah, I'll show that one too. So I haven't made this one yet. But this is the sky in the radio. So this is dominated. I guess it depends on what frequency you're looking at. This is dominated by the Milky Way. It's dominated by the band of the Milky Way, and all of these bright circles. I suspect. Oh no, those are actually the stars. So you can imagine where the constellations. You can put it up against the sky and use these as the constellations. So there's the Big Dipper there, and actually imagine what you could see if you had radio eyes. I think it's pretty cool. So they had copies of this at AAS. They will be putting it online. I'm sure we will tweet and retweet it. So thanks to Rob Minchin for letting me have a copy of that, even though it was technically for the kids. Whoops. Sorry. And then the other planet, this is Planisphere sky chart. There's a set from the Night Sky Network. So we've had those folks on the show before. If you go to just Google Night Sky Network, it'll take you to great resources for amateur astronomers or anybody who wants to do astronomy outreach. And they sent me, because I registered our little group here, some of the Planet Quest materials. Planet Quest is about exoplanets, and they have these star charts, and these will fit into you can cut it out and fit it into a planisphere. You can leave it as is. This star chart that specifically points out visible or nearly visible, I think visible stars, or nearly visible stars, with little circles and numbers, and they're described down here. All of the stars that you can see in the night sky that have exoplanets. So this is really cool because you can tie in your night sky tour with current astronomical science that's going on, with all these exoplanet discoveries, and they have it for every month for the northern hemisphere, I think. Yeah. They have no, actually, it's kind of north and south. I don't know. Oh, here we go. It's for 35 north latitude. That's why I'm not really recognizing. So yeah, so this is, so go to Night Sky Network and
Okay.
versus look at Planet Quest, and I'll try and dig up that link because I'm pretty sure you could just print these, those star charts, because that's a really cool thing to have.
That's great.
I'm gonna see if there are any last comments that I missed. And there's been hello and what's up. Hi. Hello.
Hi, hi.
Okay, I think I got. I'm sorry if I missed anything, but I think at least there's none on YouTube that I can see. So anyway, I think I've got all the comments. All right, so yeah, that is our show pretty much. Unless you have any last minute stuff to add on, I will on the Google Plus event page. I will try and find the Night Sky Network link and add that on so you can check out the exoplanet sky maps because I really like that.
Oh gosh, maybe we can have a future show about the Messier Marathon and building the telescope and
someone who has successfully done a Messier Marathon and or built a telescope, email me. Yeah, we don't actually
more likely. I don't know.
Which would be like, I think this would be awesome. Yeah, so we actually are working on our schedule right now. If you know of anyone doing cool stuff in science or astronomy or any science, education and outreach, or if you yourself have a cool project you want to talk about, please email us at educate@cosmoquest.org, or I'm sure you can just find one of us somewhere on the interwebs and let us know, or tweet at CosmoQuestX. Let us know you'd like to be on the show, and we will schedule you on to talk about fun, awesome stuff. As far as our usual weekly schedule go, the Weekly Space Hangout is on Friday at noon Pacific. I will actually try and rejoin this time. I tried to join last week, but I fell asleep because I didn't sleep much at the American Astronomical Society meeting. Anyway, so I'll bring some stories to that. So get your space news from the Weekly Space Hangout. Virtual Star Party on Sunday night. I think it's still going on at 6 p.m. Pacific. That is a tour through the night sky through the telescopes of our amazing astronomers that Scott Lewis and Fraser Kane have rounded up to show you the night sky, and you never have to leave your house. So super lazy time. And so you can get to all those from the CosmoQuest Plus Google Plus page, so plus.google.com/CosmoQuest or plus CosmoQuest. Virtual Star Party has its own page to check that out. Astronomy Cast has its own page. They do that noon on Monday, and then we roll back around to Learning Space, and we'll have a fun educational topic for you next week. Like I said, if you have a guest in mind that you want to try out, we're going to contact a whole bunch of people that we know are doing cool stuff and get them to come talk about their cool stuff. So that's my rambly ending.
Oh, you do that well. You do that very well.
Awesome. Yes, I try because I don't want Richard to yell at me for making bad audio. I love you, Richard. All right. So that is it for this week's edition of Learning Space. Thank you so much, guys.
Oh, get out there and find a constellation. Woo!
Or make one up.
Make up a story. Yeah.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Thanks.
Okay.
Hmm.
And we're back.
We're here.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Learning Space. I am one of your hosts, Nicole Gugliucci, a postdoc with the CosmoQuest project, and I have my co-host who is right through this wall.
Stop.
I'm sorry.
Quiet down over there. Hello. It's been a long time, it seems like, for me, actually.
It has been a long time, Georgia. Yeah. First of all, I gotta get this out.
Yeah.
Just found out on Twitter about the death of John Dobson, creator of the Dobsonian telescope. If you're not familiar with such a telescope, it is a really super simple, cheap mount that allows you to use a really, really big telescope. So John Dobson, I just saw on Twitter that he died today, and literally the Wikipedia page was just updated. So he lived to be action. I got together with, so I was part of the second astronomy ambassadors workshop that the American Astronomical Society has put on with the Astronomical Society of the Pacific, so AAS and ASP, those of you who know your acronyms. It was the second year they did this workshop, training young astronomers, students, undergrads, grad students. I think it was mostly grad students, postdocs, and young professional astronomers to do outreach. And it was a really cool program, and I got together with some of my new cohort and some people from last year, the first cohort, and we talked about the program and the cool stuff that people have been doing over the last year who did it last year. So check that out. That was last week's. It was only about a half hour, and it was in a somewhat echoey ballroom. But you will be seeing more of those people because I told them I'm going to tap them from Learning Space from here on in because they are all great outreach people. Yeah, and then I told you guys I was going to do some videos to keep it going through Christmas and New Year's, and then I got really sick, so that didn't happen. Sorry. So I hope you're
better now.
I'm better now.
Recovered. Yeah.
Recovered. Yeah, I know a lot of people in the U.S. have had the flu.
I know. So. I've avoided it, so fingers crossed, yes.
Get your flu shots. Okay, flu shots. All right, so what we wanted to talk about, speaking of sidewalk astronomy, something you can do on the sidewalk really easily is point out constellations. We want to talk some about our favorite constellations and about our favorite constellation stories, as well as the so what prompted this is we got an inflatable planetarium from Starlab in the STEM Center here where we work. So we wanted to tell you a little bit about that. And I don't know if you want to
That is
start.
awesome.
What's that?
Because that is awesome.
Yeah, let's start. Let me show you a picture. If you haven't seen one of these before, it is this big inflatable dome. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Dome. That you can, it's like a tent times.
I was gonna say, it's like going camping, only inside and more fun in a way.
This is a fantastic picture of our outreach coordinator, Sean Herbert.
That looks like the blob there.
I'm not sorry for showing this, but yeah, this is. We took it on a trial run for the Teen Science Gateway Teen Science Cafe back in October, and we had 98. And he was he started off this idea. I don't know if he's the first. I think he probably is the first guy to start up this idea of sidewalk astronomy, of bringing an amateur telescope out on the sidewalk to talk to people, catch them as they're going by, and get them to look through the telescope and see something cool.
Yeah, when I think of bringing astronomy to the people, that's who I think of. I think of John Dobson, and I remember I'd heard of him because of his telescope design for a long time, but back in the 80s, I think, PBS did a series called The Astronomers, and he was in one of the episodes, and I just remember was showing him and his telescope. He was on the sidewalk, and they were looking at the moon, and a woman came up and, asked, "What are you looking at?" And she said, or he said, "This is the moon." And she said, "Oh, is this part of a study that you're doing?" And he looked at her and he said, "No, this is part of a study that you're doing. If you come up and you take a look at the moon, it's your moon." And I just thought that was so cool. And I always remember that because it's our sky up there, it's our moon, and we should all be out there looking and studying it. So yeah, he is amazing, really inspirational.
It's funny you say our moon. I have a pile of Astro Swag on my desk right now, and there's totally a sticker that says it's our moon.
Oh, I know. That's
from NLSI.
Yeah, International Observe the Moon Night. It's our moon. So I think that's a great scene.
Yeah,
we'll hear a lot about him now.
What's that?
I just say I will hear a lot about him now that he's passed on.
So thank you, John Dobson, for the sidewalk astronomy, for the awesome telescope mount. We had a really cool Dob. Dob is shorthand, right, or light bucket. When I was an undergrad at Lycoming College in Pennsylvania, that we took out to the side. I didn't know that he did this sidewalk astronomy thing at the time. I was an undergrad. I didn't know anything. Not that all undergrads are, but I was pretty stupid. So we actually brought this Dobsonian to the sidewalk outside the academic center at Lycoming, and it was when Mars had its closest approach, and its real closest approach, not the nonsense email that goes out every August.
Or colossal closest approach, right?
Big as the moon, blah blah blah. No, but it was actually pretty cool to see through this. I forget how many inch mirror that that Dr. Fisher brought out. And we had several hundred people come by, and this was like one of my first outreach experiences. So yeah, the sidewalk and the Dob together is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
it's the kind of telescope you could make if you were going to make a telescope. Because I always thought, oh, one of these days, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to grind the mirror. I'm going to get the huge tube and make a Dobbs. And, I never have.
Yeah.
But,
we should do that together because I want to do the mirror grinding thing. Because that.
Do that, yeah.
Yeah, I've been told that's a very. It's a very. I don't want to use the word spiritual. It's a very. Reflective.
Then you kind of get into
experience.
It, and it's almost meditative. Yeah, that's what I've heard.
That's it. All right, we're gonna make
the really frustrating part where you are like a degree off or something. Yeah, we could do it.
We should totally do it. That'll be like a whole series of episodes. One episode, just a clip show.
You could update your progress. This week. What's the Dob doing now?
What's the Dob? Yeah. Okay, so let's so we wanted to talk about that. Thank you Paul Stewart was on Twitter, was the first one who I saw, one of our virtual star party peeps, who was the first tweet that I happened to see. But go check out the hashtag John Dobson on Twitter right now. People are talking about their experiences with the telescope and sidewalk astronomy and about the man himself. So yeah, sad news to start the show with. Yeah, like you said, we haven't been around for a while. I want to remind you guys of the ways you can contact us. If you can share the link, that's awesome. Thank you. I turned the Q&A app on this time correctly, so you can use the Q&A app. I think there's comments on the event page, and there's comments on the YouTube.
Okay.
The YouTubes, the Facebooks, and the face pages. So I will try and keep an eye on those as well, but probably the Q&A app's the one that I see the most because it's actually on the video screen. One of these days I'll figure out how to get these all together.
Then you can show me how it all works.
Yeah, and then they'll change it. And
I'm waiting for Nicole to figure it out, and then you come over and tell me what to do.
I will be redoing my Hangout tutorial soon, so I'll put that out.
Yeah, okay. I'll be waiting.
So comment, leave a question, say hello, do all the usual. We did have a brief show last week. If you missed it, it wasn't at the regular time. It was kind of a guerrilla